Alright, this is Raptor 1-2 from FKT, and this is a sort of just like a production video to show you basically what takes place here in the shop when an order comes in, and we're going to work on your order, and say particular for this order it's a holster. What we have here is the KWA ATP, and we have molded this holster in black. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you some of the steps that we go through in forming your holster, so that way you guys can get an idea of the process. The typical process for a holster, from the time it takes me to heat the Kydex in the oven, press it, to finished product is roughly, I would say, 35 to 45 minutes. It usually takes roughly between 10 minutes to heat the Kydex up so it's pliable enough for the mold, another 10 minutes while we're in the press to get a really good, as you can see, definition to the holster itself. And then after that, we mark our lines on our holster for cutting. Then we go, once the holster is cut, we do some edging on the rough outline of the holster, so that way we can get any shavings off. And at that point, what we're doing is we're going to be putting the holster together so we can get it marked for drilling. After the drilling process, we clean out the drill holes so that way our rivets fit nicely into each one of the holes. And then we go ahead, we set the rivets, and after the rivets are made and done, what we then do is we make another final measurement to trim any excess off the holster to give it more of a slimline feel and to fall within the parameters for our holster. Once we hit the cutting station for a second time, we go to our sanding wheel, and at the sanding wheel, at that point we're smoothing it down, all the edges, we're getting everything to mesh up right. And then after we do a hard sand, then we come back to the bench and we go through two different grits. We use a 220 rough, and then we go to a 320 to finish. After we do our finish, what we then do is we turn around and we go to our wash station. And in our wash station, we use a very light detergent and lukewarm water. We wash the holster down to get any oil, dirt, grime, anything like that off the holster. Any further dust or any small little pieces from the final sanding come off at that point. And then we turn around and we rinse them off really good, and we set them out on our drying rack to dry. So what you're going to see here is this particular FKT Enforcer 2 holster. This is part of a much larger order of 30 holsters. Same type of pistol, in OD green and in black. So what you're going to see here is the basic steps that we take as we go about the different phases of our workbench. So we're at our first phase. As you can see, we've got the holster molded both front and back. This is our front piece. That'll be onto the outside. So this will be what everybody sees. And this is the back portion, which will be up against the body. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw our cut lines onto these pieces of Kydex. So we'll have a draw line that'll come down on the front of the barrel, so that way we can smooth that out, and the holster will stop right at the top of the barrel here. And then we'll have our cut lines for our angle for the back portion of the holster. Now, as you can see here, we got our lines drawn. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this out on both sides. And then what we'll do is we'll do a final shaving with our work knife, and that'll help clean it up just a little bit before we go ahead and we get it set to drill holes. Due to how loud our saw is, we wear ear protection here just so we're not killing our hearing, obviously. And then once we get that done, we'll come back and you'll see what the product looks like after we get through the first phase of the saw station. Alright, as you can see here, we just made our cuts, and the lines that you're seeing here, the drawn on lines, are well within our sanding tolerance. So when we do our final sand on the sanding wheel, those will actually be sanded off, so they won't be visible obviously to the customer. But as you can see, we have these little burrs right here on the holster, or on the mold so far. And what we do is we take our handy dandy shop knife and we press them up so they sit upright, and most of these will fall right off. It's just the burr from the saw, from the blade, and we'll just shave these right off. It makes it much easier when I go to put the pistol into the mold when I go to drill the holes. So as you can see, we have them here. You can probably see them popping off as I come up, but it's a pretty simple process right here. Alright, so we cleaned off the edges, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take our molding pistol. We slide right in there because it's an exact copy of the mold itself, so it makes it easier. So we have the two pieces, and like I said, these are well within our sanding tolerance. We take our clamps here, and we'll clamp one down, probably put it like that, and then I'll take one that has rubber sleeves on, because that'll help keep it stabilized, so that helps the bottom portion of the holster. Now on the top here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy dandy drill placement. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clamp these down as well, so that way they don't move when I'm using it on the drill press. So that's how that's done for us. So now you see we're at our very first station. Well, I should say our second station. This is our drill station now. You saw how we had the hole placement, our drill guide. So now what we're going to do is, with that drill guide in place, we're going to go ahead and drill the holes. And this is a two-step process, because we'll drill the one side, we'll come away, we'll flip it around, we'll put that drill guide onto the other side of the holster, and we'll make those holes for the bottom portion as well. So as you can see, our drill guide, we took and went right down, right through it, so it made it a lot easier. And now what we're going to do is we're going to move this drill guide over onto the back side, make sure the holes are lined up, and we'll repeat the same process. Well, as you can see, we got our holes drilled. So now what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up on the front side and the back side. And what we do is we take our sanding block here. What this does is it helps get any sort of compression that was possibly came through during the drill. Any sort of that leftover kydex, we're just sanding that off right there. We've also learned that in doing this, it provides a much better placement for and a much tighter fit, as well as when we go to put in the rivets. So as you can see, we just do some light sanding, nothing too abrasive. We're going to do it on both sides. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this small stuff off like that. So and we'll make sure those are all clean, that way nothing is sitting in the way when we go to mount. Now what we'll do next is we'll take our shop knife here again, and we'll just clean out these holes again. It makes it easier for the rivets to fit through, and cleans it up and makes it look a whole lot better. So the next step you'll see is, after we get the holes clean, is we will be actually putting the rivets in. So that'll be our next focus on this holster. So now that we have, the holes are all clean on both sides, and we're ready to insert our rivets into the holes. And what I do is I start with the corners. Mount them up, make sure everything looks right, put one on the front, up on the top here, and then one down on the bottom. Sometimes you might get a little resistance when you're trying to put them in. That could be the holes a little too tight still, but 9 times out of 10, just with a little bit of push, they pop through. And then on the next portion of the video, you'll see we'll have all the holes mounted. We'll show you where we draw the line so we make the final cuts. And then we'll be moving on to our last hard sand phase. Alright, so we've got the holster together. As you can see, all the rivets are in. The reason why we do 5 on one side and 6 on the other is when we mount the malice clips, we mount them at our 5 here. But what this allows as well is allows the user, if they want the holster to go up a little higher, they can adjust the malice accordingly. But as you see, we have our silver lines. Again, well within our sanding tolerance. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut these off here. And then we'll be moving on to our final sand. And again, due to the noise level of our Dremel saw, we wear air protections. You will not see that portion of the video. So now we've made our cuts. So as you can see, it is a little smaller now. A little rougher on the edges, of course, but what we're going to do now is we're going to run this through our sander, and the holster will have taken shape to how it will look when it gets to the customer. So here is the final shaping. As you can see here, we do have some debris hanging on the holster, but at this point what we'll do is we'll clean it up, we'll sand it down with both our 220 and 320 grit sandpaper blocks. And once we do that, this will move into the wash area where, like I said, again, we'll wash it down with a light detergent and lukewarm water to get any oil or anything off the holster. And then it'll air dry we leave it set for about 30 minutes. And then any sort of water spots we see will hand dry off with a towel. At that point, we'll attach malice clips, and then it'll go into its packaging ready to be sent off to either one of the retailers that orders from us or customer. So this is pretty much the production of an FKT Enforcer 2 holster, and this is for an ATP, which again, even some of the Glock models will fit this holster as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to email us at ftkTech@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook at Falcon Kydex Tech, or check out our new website at falconbattlesystems.com. Again, this is Raptor 1-2 from FKT saying have a great day and enjoy the rest of your weekend.